back. Well, it is Wednesday, and as always, every Wednesday, if you've been watching NTV this morning with any regularity, we get to cover and also study the Constitution, and we normally have experts here to tell us more about what is encapsulated in the Constitution. The Kenya National Integrated Civic Education Program is an initiative of the government of Kenya in collaboration with non-state actors to develop a nationally owned and sustainable program of civic education. For the last 3 weeks, every Wednesday, we've been doing this, and we've been covering an in-depth study of the Constitution. And just to give you a recap of what we covered last week we were looking at the election, and we also looked at elective position and their various roles, who manages elections, IBC's mandate, function of the Register of Political Parties, and also Election Act and registration of voters. Yes, that is what we covered last week. And today's focus, we focus on devolution, as I said, and we'll be looking at these various points. We'll be looking at the meaning of devolution, also the principles of devolution, rationale of devolution, and what Kenya hopes to achieve of devolution, also the functions of county and national government, transfer of functions among counties and national government, and the shared services. Of course, it's going to be a jam-packed session here, and I have experts here in the studio to tell us more about what is devolution. I have the chairman of the Transition Authority, Kinuthia Mwangi, and I also have the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government, Karega, Mutahi, to tell us more about devolution. I'm very happy that today, yes, we're going to unravel this mystery sometimes people don't really understand about devolution. Let's just start with the basics. What is devolution?
Simply said, devolution is the transfer of power and authority from a national government to a sub-government. And it involves a distribution of power, resources, personnel, and functions. And functions here, you know, is the services that government offers to the nation and to the people. So these are the ingredients of devolution.
Right.
But also, devolution is seen in a more deeper sense than what we have been having in the past, called decentralization. Decentralization can be in many forms, like local government has existed all along in Kenya. And this is a form of decentralization, but it's a delegated power. It's a delegated power.
Then which I want to rope in now the permanent secretary to tell us more about. Of course, we had the promulgation of a constitution, and now in the new constitution right now. But we want to know, yes, what is this current state of government? We are running under which system?
Now, historically, we have been running a government that is wholly centralized.
Yes, just as the chairman
all the powers of governance, the resource distribution or decisions of the state were made at the center. And therefore, the subnational or local institutions have had no power to decide. And if they had power to decide, it was power deliberately delegated to them by the center. But when we get to devolution, that power is not delegated. It is given by the Constitution. Now, if you looked in the past, the actions taken by local authorities, whether you are talking of a municipal council or a city council, many of those decisions needed the approval of the minister. But with the devolution, there will be no approval by anybody else except by the county government, which is constituted of the county executive and county assembly. Yes.
Right. Now, back to you, Bwana Chairman. Of course, you've given us what devolution is all about, but we have various forms of devolution. Could you kindly just run us through some various forms of devolution that are there?
As I said, devolution is sharing of power.
Yes, it is sharing of power.
It's a kind of absolute sharing of power. Because once that power is shared, like the PS has said here, it's not subject to supervision by any other.
So this is what we call...
Now we have the Kenyan type of devolution, which we are calling, where you have two types of government. You have the national government and the county government, but they are distinct, but they're interconnected, and they are consultative. But you can have an absolute form of devolution where you have a federal government, where you have clearly shared powers and almost very independent existence of separate units of government within a state, like we have in the United States. I think generally in political science, those are the two main types of devolution. Yes.
Of course, here we do not have, we are yet to go there, but it will not be the federal, but it will be the cooperative system of devolution, isn't it?
Let us say we are not yet to go there because we have chosen a path. We have chosen a path where we have defined a government that has some level of autonomy without an extreme sense of independence. Yes.
Maybe I could add here, if in a situation like in the US, the states have a lot of powers. They can register laws that would affect their relationship with the other states, even with the federal government, until they are charged in the Supreme Court. Here, the devolution we have opted for is one where the policy and national norms and standards are established through Parliament, that is national government. Once the policy and norms are set, the decision on how to implement them, when to implement them, becomes the responsibility of the laws or subnational institutions, in this case county governments. The policy is made at national level. Yes. Right.
Now we're talking about the cooperative system of devolved government.
Yes.
And of course, you've mentioned the principles, and I know there are other principles that this cooperative devolved system of government is predicated on. Let's just get deeper and discuss the principles. We have the principle of distinctiveness.
Yes.
Unravel that for us.
Yes. The sense of distinctiveness is first, the county is autonomous from the national government. And it has been indicated here by the peers when he says the counties now are not subject to supervision, direct supervision by the national government.
Yes.
And they have the independent existence with their own legislative framework. So a county government has its own checks and balances within itself, whereby the legislative arm has an oversight over the executive arm. And this is the farthest they can go in terms of checks and balances. It's not subject to a national government. Neither does the county supervise the national government, but there is an interlinkage. So to that extent, they are distinct. They are separate and they are autonomous from each other, only to that extent. But as it has been indicated, there is the level of interdependence.
Which is the second principle now.
Which is the second principle of distinctiveness. They are interdependent because, as we have said, most of the transferred functions, it's only that aspect of the transferred function that has to do with the service delivery that has been transferred to the county. And therefore, the counties deal with implementation, and the national government deals with standards and deals with policy. Why standards and policy? Because we are a state. We are one republic. We are one state. And therefore, we should be predictable to other nations. Somebody coming to Kenya is not coming to a county. So if you are dealing in international trade, therefore the policies existing on international trade are about Kenya. And therefore, somebody investing in Kenya should see Kenya as Kenya, and they will look at the standards you keep, they will look at the policies you keep. So it's expected that if the investor comes now to a county, those standards and policies will be followed. Yes, so that we have uniform products and we have uniform practices throughout the country.
Right. What appears also tucked away within that principle of interdependence is the principle of subsidiarity.
Yes.
Can you tell us what subsidiarity is and how key it will be, especially within the counties?
Oh, it is important. Subsidiarity is a situation in which the county government is able to deliver what the national government may not be able to deliver. For example, let's look at the functions that are given national government and pick education. Education is still not devolved. It's a function of national government. But in implementing education, the national government may find itself in a position where it is not able to carry that as effectively as the county government, which is closer to the people. So on the basis of subsidiarity, they can delegate that to the county. But it's not to be mistaken that the county government can also delegate if it finds a function unable to do, because in the constitution it is established that the level at which the function can best be implemented, can best be delivered to the people, should be the one that acts in terms of service delivery.
Yes.
So in this case, the national government would transfer a function to the county. And once the function is transferred, the resources going to deliver that function are also transferred to the county. That is the basis in which we are talking about subsidiarity. It is not subsidiarity in a sense of saying you must do this or you do that. No, the county government is free to do what they have been given by the constitution when they want to do it, but they must do it within the national framework of norms and standards. Yes.
Right. If we move on deeper, we have the principle of cooperation, and it's also consultation. Of course, there's going to be a seamless flowing of information from the national government and the counties. Tell us more about this principle. Of course, you've touched on it in bits here and there, but I want you to give us now a full scope, especially where it requires now intergovernmental dialogue and consultation.
Yes. Yes, you see, I wanted to come there.
Yes.
In the sense that we have established a devolution law called the Intergovernmental Relations Act. It is understood that from time to time, there will be questions that will require to be solved when people are together, both inter-county and between the national and the devolved governments,
Yes.
or county governments. So we have established a mechanism at the national level, or a mechanism called Intergovernmental Relations mechanism called the Summit, where the President, as chairman of the Summit, and 47 governors, with one of them as the Vice Chairman, will be meeting to resolve any issues that, that seem to arise, and questions that seem to arise in terms of the performance of their duties at different levels. So that's a consultative mechanism, and that is one of the cooperative mechanisms. Yes.
Now within also...
Let me add here.
Yes, yes.
Let me add here. That is between the national government and the county governments. Between the county government themselves,
Yes.
you have the Council of Governors, where all the 47 governors come together to consult and discuss issues affecting their work.
So these are the joint committees within that have been set
The
up.
council brings every governor together, and they can establish institutions that will help them cooperate together. So cooperation is both vertical and horizontal, between the governors and also between the national government and the county. And that's why the chairman is saying here that there is a summit that brings together the county governors and the president. Within that summit, there is a technical committee that serves as secretariat to do the day-to-day operations. That technical secretariat is also the secretariat that helps the Council of Governors to interact and cooperate in whatever issues they decide.
Can we also add that...
yeah, when you talk about the Council of Governors, you're talking the Council of Governors within the county or across the board?
All the 47
all the
governors
47, okay.
Under the law are required to have a county of governors.
Yes.
To enable them to come together, dialogue together, and once they have had their dialogue, be able to establish links for cooperation between the governors. Because as I said, the cooperation and consultative processes are both vertical and as horizontal. Yes.
And you can also have in the background why this, because you know in the Constitution it provides for things called shared services.
Shared services.
Shared services,
yes,
and shared institutions. So sometimes the effectiveness and the way these operate among each other, between the two governments and between the county governments, these may be the issues that may arise. Like for instance, if the counties want to establish some shared services like water, provision of water, they may want to have a policy on how they can establish companies between several or in a metropolitan area of counties. Then such issues can be discussed as a policy among all governors, and then they can all agree now this is the way we shall go forward. Yes.
Right. You're watching NTV this morning, and today, of course, is Wednesday, and we have the Kenya National Integrated Civic Education that we've been running here for the last 4 weeks. Today, we are focusing on devolution, and of course, we've gone through the principles of devolution and what also is devolution. And we're moving on. You can join us on Facebook. We can tell you that you can follow the Twitter handle. It is at Knice Kenya. That is the Twitter, and also the Facebook profile is Knice Kenya. You can visit that and find more details of what devolution is all about. We take this conversation around deeper now, and we want to know, is there any rhyme or reason why we should have devolved government? What is the rationale of having the devolved government? What appears?
Thank you very much. There is every reason for us to have devolved government given our experience since 1963. And basically, we have gone through a period during which the concentration of power at center also meant the concentration of decisions on how to use resources, and also on how to execute political programs. We have gone through a situation where if we vote you in as our president, you can then decide where resources will go. If we didn't support you, can marginalize us in terms of resource allocation.
Yes.
But under devolution, the Constitution is quite clear that resources must be shared equitably. So on the basis of equity, we cannot marginalize one part of the society, a region or a group. And this is fundamental in that where you have people of different clans, of different ethnic groups, or even races, and some of them have been essentially out of view. There are people in this country that have never participated in any decision. Now we are saying these people have a right to participate. So the resource equity is one. The participation is another rationale, that we want everybody to participate in the political process, in the decision making at both levels, national and county level. And therefore, the decision making is no longer a preserve of the winner take all, as we have had. Now, the participation in deciding our future is our common good. And it be done at the national level, even in the county, at the ward level. The people can decide what they want to do. And if the governor and his county government decides not to listen to them, they can go to court and seek redress. So participation, resource sharing, and also accountable use of executive power. With devolution, every act one takes, whoever he is or she is accountable for that.
So the issue of excesses of power is not
no longer applicable unless we refuse to exercise the rights in the Constitution.
Yes.
Right. Maybe we can try, and even as we're moving now to the devolved government, we can look at the demerits and merits maybe of the current system of government that we're having. And maybe when we go now to the devolution, then we can see some of the advantages. What are some of the merits and demerits that we're having with the current system?
Now, let's call it the centralized, system of
yes.
government. It has been well articulated right now, because we are saying the decision making at national level is confined to very, very privileged few. Maybe at the apex was the presidency. And then the people surrounding that presidency, the cabinet, or some other powerful Kenyans. And these are the people who used probably to have the biggest say in how resources are shared. Number two, the ordinary citizen, and even the majority of Kenyans, never had any chance to say what they want. And we developed this mentality, naomba. So that so every time people kept on manipulating how the president can just pass by their town so that they can give their list of what they would like to be done for them. And that's what the PS is saying. This is no longer going to happen. You don't need, the president can come as a head of state to just grace your village, but not to give you resources or other things. Now, because the resources are shared. And I want to give you a very interesting thing. I was talking to a group of Asians, and this is a community that's organized nationally. And they were telling me, we have been in this country and we are going nowhere because we belong here. But you always say you are 42 tribes. Has anybody ever thought that the Asians are the 43rd tribe? And they were saying, have we ever been allowed to participate in the governance, in saying what we would want, in whatever?
Interesting. They're not encapsulated within the 42 tribes.
Tribes.
They're not.
There is no Asian 42. There is no Asian tribe. But they are saying we are many and we are substantive. If you come to consider the size of any tribe, we are one and we are for that. Who has ever thought about us? And you tell Mr. Chairman, I think this time round you are going to recognize there is a marginalized community called the Asian community. You see, so decision making brought at a subsidiary level. I think we will now, for the first time, involve such people and many others who have felt marginalized and excluded from the high table. So I think we can only talk of demerit. I think there is no merit in centralization as we have seen it in Kenya because it has not favored us and it has only brought us misery because a lot of this discontent that you find in the country, it is in the sense of people feeling that others are benefiting better than themselves.
Maybe you want also to add here that with the centralized system, the democratic separation of powers ceased a long time ago. There was no clear line between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. We have had cases of people arrested at 6 o'clock in the evening, and before daybreak they are condemned to jail. That kind of process threatened everybody. People have been detained, people have been harassed by the executive authority. Abuse of executive power has been very common. So these are the things that the Bill of Rights now in the Constitution is saying must not be allowed to happen. So the system we have had has been a system prone to abuse, prone to misuse. And even where the head of state may not necessarily be abusing, the agents of the state can, and they did, abuse the due process. Yes.
Right.
Can we add just one more thing?
Sure.
You know, the present system of government, the centralized government, is supply driven. But the devolved system of government is demand driven. Now it is the people who demand or say what they want to be done for them. Before, it is the government that used to say, this is what we are going to do in Professor Karega's constituency, this is what we're going to do in Kinuthia's constituency, and the people didn't have a say.
So it is also a push and pull factor. The government was pushing.
So it ended up in the people electing only those, they were looking for the best debaters and negotiators who can negotiate for more bounty to come to their areas. But now you don't have to negotiate because there is a formula of and principle of sharing of national resources. Whether you are debating or not, there is the basic resources that will come to your constituency or to your county without you having to struggle for it. Yes.
Right. Well, a rich stream of information that we're receiving here on NTV this morning. I'm all in court with the transitional chairman, Mr. Kinuthia Mwangi, and also the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government, Karega Mutahi, who's giving us an inside scoop about the devolution. And our question is this: we're asking you, do you understand what devolution is all about? How well do you understand devolution? How well do you understand devolution? We are holding court, as I told you, with the Professor Karega Mutahi, permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government, and the chairman of Transitional Authority, Kinuthia Mwangi, who are here telling us about devolution. The question is, how well do you understand devolution? You can visit our Facebook profile, NTV This Morning. You can SMS us on 5505. Also, our Twitter handle is @NTV This Morning. Let's hear from you. What are your comments? Do you understand devolution? We're moving on, and back to you, Governor Pierce. There is a problem of now implementation we've always seen in this country. We have all these good policies, well documented. The task force, they've come up with a good report. Yet now when we're going now to implement, that is a place we normally have very kings, many kings that are not ironed out. What is encapsulated in the Constitution to really enable now the implementation of devolution?
Thank you very much. The main weapon against failure to implement is the people's power.
The people's power.
The people's power. Because in the Constitution, it says the sovereign power of Kenya belongs to the people of Kenya. And the people can exercise that authority directly or through their democratically elected representatives. It is important to notice that these two ways of exercising power. If we have passed a policy and we aren't implementing it, then anybody, group or individuals can go to court and challenge the government on the basis of the program they have approved. Because this program is not going to be drawn by the center either at national level or at the county level. It is going to be a negotiated program. We said that there is public participation, citizens' participation. The program is, as he was saying, is not going to be supply driven. We have come together, we have dialogued in a county, both at ward level and at county level. We have come up with a program which says, in this ward we shall do a school, in this one we will do a bridge, in this one we will do a clinic. That budget cannot be changed. Money can only be used to implement that budget. So the room to maneuver,
it is not there.
And to go and tell the people, if you elect me, I'll give you this, I'll give you the other, has been erased. You have to tell them, if you vote me in, I will come and together we can do this. Because the people must sanction what they are doing, and the law and the Constitution allow them to go to court and challenge you and petition the governor or the national government. Now it is in the people's hands.
Right.
Yes, I think the other thing we can add to what the PS has said is capacity.
Capacity.
In the past, I think there has been an unproportionate presence of professionals in Nairobi. And I think the devolved system of government is encouraging professionals to go back to their counties and work there. And besides even encouraging, a lot of professionals want to go back and work there. So there are a lot of, since we are creating careers, and very, very high and prominent careers in county governments, we are expecting to see a lot of people getting engaged at the local level and being participants in implementation processes, in policy making processes at the county level. So the ability to implement programs is going to rise and it's going to increase. Let me add here that we are anticipating that there will be very high competition between counties in terms of economic development, in terms of accountability, in terms of governance. And we can see this right here where we are with the PS in the Transition Authority. By the way, the PS is also a member of the Transition Authority. And I'm sure when we are in the Transition Authority, we can see this being built up it's also our responsibility to build that capacity for the 3 years that we are going to be in existence, and to make sure that every county has that capacity. So implementation in the future is going to be disbursed to the counties, and it's going to be very professional, and therefore there will be better services.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, well, we shall keep on discussing about this, because we have the principles also of governance laid down in the article, I think, Article 10 of the Constitution.
Yes.
There's also the rule of law and also transparency.
Yes.
But before we go there, we have callers who are hanging on the line, and they would love to contribute on this discussion that we're having here this morning. We have Hussein Mohammed from Isiolo. Hello, good morning.
Mohammed Hussein.
Yes, Mohammed Hussein, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Morning.
Morning to you. It's good to hear your voice after a long while.
Yes. Morning, Mr. P.S., Professor
Good morning.
Karega Mutahi,
Good morning.
and Mr. Kinuthia, the chairman.
Good morning, Hussein.
Yes. Thank you. In the first place, I congratulate you for highlighting and giving an insightful debate on the devolution. And then the one thing I wanted to ask you, the first question, is that the Kenya National Integrated Civic Education, we have not had it in Isiolo. We have not had it in Isiolo.
Yes.
So that is one thing. How do you involve the people of Isiolo? Because this is about the Constitution, and when people learn the Constitution, they'll be able to vote for their leaders, and they'll know how to go about devolution one. The second thing is about devolution has brought the country at par, because initially the centralized system had ostracized and marginalized some areas. And it is a blessing, because this is what people have been yearning for. And such debates need to be devolved and brought nearer to the people. And the third thing is that the Transitional Commission should try to establish offices in all the counties, because we are trying to transit from the central to the devolved government. So in a nutshell, what I will be requesting is, as the chairman, we should ask the government to fund you fully, because we will not be there as transition commission. We will be there maybe even for 20 or 30 years, because the Constitution is a gradual implementation of the policies of the government, so that we change. Because we've seen that from 1992 up to today, that is 1992 to 2007, the problem with Kenyans and what brought us to the war is that we believed that the person at the head should be ours. And this is what has made people, created mistrust between the different peoples in the country. And also, the Constitution is the one that is going to help the country. Because what is happening, like near our neighbor in Baragoi and Isiolo, these areas you find that they have been cut short, and there are so many illegal things going on, is because the areas have been marginalized. And because people cannot speak for themselves, now they find that the only alternative they can do is do those illicit activities, which we are against. And this was contributed to by the sensational paper of 1965, sensational paper number 10. This should be addressed. And what can address is only the Constitution. So what we are asking is that enlighten the people, bring the services closer to the people, and we want you to contact us, and also Kenya National Integrated Civic Education should be seen to be moving. We are not seeing it. Isiolo personally. And we don't know how it is done. We want it to be open, and it's an open and transparent era, so that we compete on ideas, and this is what we want for a better and future prosperous Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Hussein. Mohammed Hussein there from Isiolo for those contributions, and of course the PAs and the chairman will be here to answer your questions. We have Ken Ogola before we go on. We have Ken Ogola from Nairobi, who has a question also for us, or maybe a contribution. Hello, Ken. Good morning.
Yeah, hello. Morning.
Morning
How are
to
you?
you. We're fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, now I have a comment. It would also come as a question. According to what Mr. Kinuthia said, that the Asian community is the 43rd tribe.
Yes.
And I really don't have a problem with that. Indeed, they are. They've been here for more than 100 years, so on. But I have a problem with his contention that they are marginalized, because that is far from the truth. And that also brings me to the issue of affirmative action. Because as we move into devolution and into counties, the most important thing is that the people should benefit from their own counties and their own democratic arrangements that will be devolved into the sections all around the country. And now we have a small population of about 100,000 people, because that is the count of the Asians, as, if I can remember correctly, as of the last population census, who control close to 99% or so of the economy. Now that is, first of all, that is not marginalization. And indeed, just like South Africa did, we need to look at that issue very critically. Because if you look at the South African situation, you find that the whites controlled a large percentage of the economy.
Yes.
And when they moved into independence, they recognized that, yes, there are some historical injustices that made them to be that. It's not like the blacks were not able to own anything or have wealth. It was a skewed arrangement. And there's a similarity with Kenya. And therefore, what I'm asking is, with the view that Mr. Kinuthia has, does he really have an idea of how to create affirmative action so that the businessmen at the local places in Garissa, in Turkana, are able to benefit from their own counties in view of the fact that for more than 100 years we've been dominated by a class of people who he terms as marginalized. They will beat us hands down when it comes to, for example, contracts for roads, contracts for buildings, all manner of contracts. If you're going to look at it freely and fairly, they will beat us. So what is the affirmative action that they have planned, or is it something they've never even thought about?
Right. Thank you, Kenagola from Nairobi. Let's pick our last caller now, and we have Jacob Mwirigi, who should be online momentarily. Hello, Jacob.
Yes.
Morning, Jacob. How are you? What's your question this morning?
Okay, I'm Jacob Mwirigi.
Yes.
I'm calling from Meru. I have two questions.
Yes, please. And kindly make them brief.
Yeah, one concerns the post of the governor.
Yes.
What are the qualifications of one to be entitled for the governorship? And my second one is, who is the senior-most leader in the county government?
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jacob Mwirigi there from Meru. We really do appreciate. Let's move on and we discuss all those. Maybe starting with Mohammed Hussein from Isiolo.
Yes.
Knice is not in Isiolo. We begin from there.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I'm sorry if there is no Knice in Isiolo, and if it's not there, it's coming. If you consider that we have already trained at least 5 trainers in each county, and Isiolo was ably represented when we trained these people. They were supposed to train another 50 in Isiolo as trainers who would then go back to their local areas and train others. If it's not done yet in Isiolo, it should be coming anytime now. Number 2, the Knice has contracted a number of civil society organizations that are doing civic education, and it's currently ongoing. So if it's not reached there yet, it is on the way, and I want to assure him that there will be action very soon on that account. Now, let me touch briefly on the issue that Mwangi raised about the Asian community and the reaction that we get from a Kenyan or Kenyans. Indeed, one, you don't talk about the marginalization and you stop there. You must what type of marginalization. Some people are economically marginalized. Some others are politically marginalized. Others are ecologically marginalized.
Yes.
There are very many types of marginalization. I think what Mr. Mwangi was saying, and he is here, he can defend himself, was that politically,
Yes.
this very important group of people for Kenyan society has not been a participant in the process. And I was going to say, it's not we aren't even 43. There must be other groups. We have Kenyans of Arab origin. They haven't been, they have not come to say their bit. We have Kenyans of European origin. So it is not just the question of economic power. It is looking at all issues of national development and asking ourselves, with the new constitution now, saying that everybody must participate, who in each county, who in the nationhood and nation building should participate. And the intention of the constitution is that all Kenyans, regardless of their origin, as long as you are a Kenyan, have a right to participate. How they participate is now our challenge. But Mwangi is here. Now, let me finish with the issue of the governor, of the county government, who is the most senior.
briefly, because we've got a lot to cover before.
Yeah, okay,
yes,
fine.
Just briefly.
Executive power lies in the county government, and the senior most in the executive is the governor. But the governor only heads the county government in terms of the executive. There is the speaker of the county assembly who handles the registration. He is the most senior in the legislative matters. So yes, the head of county government is the governor. And that is the most important person in terms of the county development, county affairs. I'll stop there for a moment.
Right. Also on Facebook, we're receiving actually comments and people asking questions. So are you going to be hiring? Will the counties start hiring? That is Daniel Arimi who's asking that. Also Wanga Maui is asking, is security devolved? If yes, how will the country share its resources with the central government?
Okay.
I think, Chairman, you can briefly comment on that, then we move on with what we have here.
There are a lot of issues that were not answered here. I don't know how you want us to handle them.
Comment on them.
Yes. Let me first of all deal with Hussein. I'm very pleased to hear his comments because I think the peers and myself still have very fond memories of when we visited Isiolo about a week and a half ago. We were there for 2 days, and we were happy to see the vibrant community in Isiolo, particularly town. You should also know that I was in Marara when the Barago incidences happened. So we understand these things. But in terms of devolution and terms of transition authority, besides what Professor said about the civic education of Knice, we are planning to advertise this week or next week some for recruitment of what we are calling transition interim transition teams.
All right.
These are people, we shall get people from those counties who will be able to drive the process of transition between now and March 4, both for in establishing structures that will be found by the executive and the speaker, that is the legislative arm. So there will be one county interim team to organize for the representative for the registration arm and one for the executive. Then we are also going to advertise for county transition coordinators who are our representatives in each county. Now, as for Ogora, I think this has been exhausted, and the PS has said marginalization, even women, they are equal to men or more, and yet they are saying they are marginalized. So let's the Kenyans begin to in fact, interrogate this word marginalization And the more you think about it, the more you will know that people are marginalized, not only through poverty, but also through other means. And in terms of qualification of a governor, I think the minimum we want from a governor is a degree. But also we can say that this person must be a manager and must also be a leader. The two must combine, because we are not just going to have a political astutness as the qualification. We also must get economic and other abilities within a leader.
Right.
And for the security, that's what we call a shared responsibility.
Shared responsibility.
A shared responsibility. Therefore, security operates both at national and county government, and it's a shared responsibility at all levels.
Right.
And I'm sure the government is quite aware of that, and there are mechanisms of coordinating security at all levels, including the county.
Let me add here.
Yeah, yes.
In terms
Briefly.
of national security, that function is a national government. But in terms of the process, there will be consultation between the county government and the national government on those matters. But in terms of the assignment, security is a national function. Yes.
Right. Okay, let's move on and we talk about the goals of now the devolution. We want to know, what are the goals of devolution? What do we hope to achieve while we're going to the devolved government? Maybe, Bonapius, we can start with you.
Okay, fine.
What is the main focus?
Well, as I said, the goals of devolution begins by reinstatement of the people's power.
Which is to promote democratic and accountable exercise of power.
Promote democratic and accountable use of power. That is very, very clear. We also need to recognize that Kenya is a diverse society.
Yes.
Socially, economically, name it. And that our strength lies in harnessing that diversity. And once we harness that diversity, we build a national unity, national cohesion, based on recognition that we are different. We have also had this position that people's power to decide have been grabbed. Reinstating that through devolution empowers people to decide on their own affairs. We also have the concept that those who have been marginalized, those who have been neglected, now have a right under the Constitution to enjoy the benefits of national resources, the benefits of national power. So the right of the communities to manage their affairs and the right of communities, marginalized communities, to participate are critical aspect of the goals of devolution, among others. Yeah.
Right, thus we hope to promote social and economic development and the provision of accessible services. I think this is also the shared services that you were talking about, Bwana Chairman, isn't it?
Yeah, besides, you know, there's economic development and social development.
Yes.
Particularly when we talk about promotion of culture and also the economics. So the ability of counties to generate their own revenues is probably coming from that principle of economic promotion of economic development. Because each county, in fact, it's a major principle of devolution that each county must be self-sustaining. It must be able to raise its own revenues. And therefore, that is a key aspect of the objectives of devolution.
Right.
Yes.
And what are the various types of functions of both the constitutional county or the constitution county and the national government?
Now,
described in
the Constitution recognizes 3 types of functions.
Yes. Let me just take notes.
Those 3 would be categorized as follows. There is exclusive functions that are assigned only at one level of government.
Yes.
That, for example, foreign affairs is the preserve of the national government. Okay. Implementation of the functions assigned to the county is an exclusive function of county government. So these are exclusive functions are the functions assigned to only one side. Then you have the functions that are concurrent. two levels of government have been assigned the same function. For example, firefighting, for environmental issues, where at one level the government deals with the policy and the standards and norms, and another level the county is implementing. But in case of firefighting, you find that both the government and the county are assigned the same function, which means it will be a concurrent function. Then there is a third type of function that the Constitution recognizes but doesn't say which these functions are. That any function not assigned to any of the two levels, they're calling them residue function. And any residue function, that function goes to national government. And the other day we were discussing with people and said, who is in charge of IT in this country? IT is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. That function is the responsibility of the national government.
So that is part of the residue function?
Yeah, residue function. Anything not mentioned in, either in Schedule 4 or for the county or national government will revert to national government.
Oh.
But my colleague can...
They are like many of these will arise. After all, we are becoming, under Vision 2030,
yes.
We are becoming an industrialized nation. And therefore, a lot of functions will arise. And they will be assumed, since they don't belong to anyone, they belong to the government. But it's very important to recognize the issue of the three categories, because there are things that the government, the national government, will never be expected to do. So things like managing habitats or cemeteries or very other localized services that have been exclusively been given to the counties. But then, as we mentioned,
yes,
there are key services like agriculture, like health, trade, that are shared functions. And this is where the PS is saying that in those key functions, the government will maintain the policies and standards, or will make the policies and standards, and the counties will do the implementation part. But none is supervising the other. Each is acting independently. But we know that a county has the responsibility to implement national policies and standards, and vice versa. Because counties can also make laws, and therefore the national government will also assist the county governments to implement its own laws where it is required to do so.
Right. But Chairman, can the county government transfer its power to the national government and vice versa?
Well, yes, a county government can, earlier on I said the county government can delegate a function to national government if it feels incapable of delivering that to the standards expected. Take, for example, county roads. County roads is an exclusive function of county government. But going around the country, you don't find any county that has adequate facilities and personnel to do quality roads. So the county government can tell the national government, please perform this for me. But that has to be done in writing, and the county government remains responsible for the road, even when it has delegated to the national government. The same will be the case if, for example, the national government delegated a function to a county government. It still remains constitutionally responsible for that function to ensure that the service is delivered to the quality it's supposed to be delivered.
Two elements.
Yes.
There must be a formal agreement.
A formal agreement.
To transfer that function. There must be a time limit, because you must say, I'm delegating to you up to this time. If that time ends, then you can renegotiate. So there must be those factors. Yes.
Right. Maybe your final thoughts, Bwana Chama. There are reactions here from people on Twitter and also on Facebook. One is saying that, will devolution cause relocation of civil servants to their counties? That is Kaseo Mwangi who's asking.
You know, this question has been answered in every forum I have attended. The people don't seem to listen to each other or to have read the Constitution or the law. My first appeal is, please read the law.
Read the law.
Because within the law, it is quite, the County Governments Act quite clearly states that the county government will employ their own staff up to 70% from within the county communities. 30% will come from outside the communities. But for those currently in government, those whose functions have been transferred, and those in local authorities, they are all deemed to have been seconded to the county government soon after elections. They all become members of the staff of the county government.
Right.
Probably there's an impression, and I think it came from Twitter or Yahoo, whatever the person asked.
Yeah, from
that the governor is coming with a clean slate, and he will begin advertising on the second day for people, for positions. That's not the correct thing. One, we are saying the existing local government staff will immediately become the base group of employees of the county government. So they will translate into county government staff. Number two, all those transferred functions, whoever is working for the transferred functions, will move with the function to the county.
Right.
And we shall declare on 5th that stay as you are. So anybody who is caught up in a function that's being performed in Isiolo, in Marsabit, in Nakuru, and that has been transferred to the county, you are, as he says, assumed to have been seconded to that county. And therefore you become a county staff. And there will be this moratorium of about 3 years when we shall allow processes to be done. So the issue of employing new employees does not arise unless the positions have arisen and the need has arisen. And as we say, even if any other conditions arise, there will always be 30% of the rest of Kenya employees existing in every county, because you will not be allowed to employ more than 70% of the residents of that county.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's just wind up there, because right now what is really happening is we have Wanga Eva Mawe, who's also saying that kindly tackle my second question. How will the county resource be shared with the central government, and how will the central resources shared among the counties? I think we should continue with this forum. We will continue with the forum next week. We, of course, will be discussing still the county government. Bwana PS, I really appreciate you coming this morning to give us an inside scoop about what is devolution. I really do appreciate, and also Bwana Chema, I really do appreciate you coming also this morning. Right. There is next week where we're going to cover the following. We will talk about how devolution will work. And that is next week, and also the structure and leadership of county governments that will look now at the county assembly, county executive committee, senator, governor, and deputy governor. Also local authorities and provincial administration vis-a-vis devolved government. That is what we're going to cover, and management of cities and urban areas, intergovernmental relations, and citizens' engagement in devolution. Thank you so very much. I'll leave you with a quote there by Nelson Mandela, who says, it should be up on your screens momentarily. He says, the state to function properly, all the system must go well. Thank you so very much, and have a lovely day.
Knice inakufafanulia katiba nawe jenga nchi yako. Ni wakati wa kujinice na Knice, uielewe katiba nawe jenga nchi yako.
Need a bit of extra cash? Running out of space and need to get rid of some stuff? Well, why not sell it on OLX? It's really easy. Just log on to www.olx.co.ke. Click on Post a Free Ad, select the correct category, fill in the form, upload a picture of your item, add your contact details, then simply wait for a buyer to call you. It's that quick and easy, and it's free. olx.co.ke.
I am finished.
Scandal. And I'm the luckiest woman in the world because I have the best